Libra. I've never seen anything so powerful happen to a sign. There's something I need to tell you before we begin, something that perhaps no one has told you with this clarity. What's happening to Libra now is unlike anything that came before. It's not a normal cycle. It's not a passing phase. It's something completely different. And you, if you're a Libra, have already felt this in some way. Maybe you haven't been able to name it yet. Maybe you've tried to fit it into an explanation that didn't quite work, but you felt it. There is a line. It runs beneath everything, invisible, silent, shapeless. Geologists call it a tectonic fault, a fracture in the Earth's crust where two plates meet, press against and resist each other. For decades, sometimes centuries, that line remains quiet. The surface above it seems completely normal. Houses are built, cities grow, life goes on with all its routines and rhythms. And no one remembers that beneath it all, there is a pressure that has never stopped accumulating, that has never rested. That's how Libra is. The world sees the surface. It sees the diplomacy, the natural charm, the ability to make any environment seem a little lighter just by being present. It sees someone who always finds an elegant way out, who transforms conflict into conversation, who seems to have been born knowing how to navigate what others sink. And Libra has learned to believe in this version of itself. It has learned to identify with the surface, but the line has always been there, quiet, accumulating. You know what I'm talking about. That moment when you're in a perfectly normal environment and suddenly you feel something nameless, a discomfort that came from nowhere, a tension that seems to have no cause. You look around and everything seems fine. But inside you, something registered, something that others didn't feel, a change in pressure, an alteration in the emotional field that only you picked up on, that only you processed. This isn't anxiety, this isn't paranoia, it's Libra's sensor working, that ancient, almost animalistic ability to perceive what's moving beneath the surface of things before any evidence appears, before the conflict has a name, before the problem is visible to those on the outside. And lately, this sensor has been firing differently, with a frequency and intensity that Libra wasn't used to registering. It's not the same old restlessness. It's not that familiar discomfort you feel when a relationship is unbalanced or when a decision was made in the wrong place. It's something bigger, something that seems to involve not only what's around you, but what's inside, as if the very structure you use to understand who you are is undergoing a revision that you didn't authorize or ask for. Libra has always been extraordinarily good at taking care of the external environment, at calibrating and adjusting, at keeping everything running with the least possible friction. But there's a question this talent has never answered, and one that's becoming impossible to ignore now. Who takes care of Libra's internal structure while it takes care of everything else? Because something is happening beneath the surface, something that no longer fits within the old balance. And the feeling you're experiencing, this unease without a clear address, this restlessness without an apparent cause, isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something within you is about to reorganize itself into something more real, more honest, and more completely yours than any balance Libra has ever built before. And this process has a name, a direction, and a logic that you will fully understand by the end of this video. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. It's not a collection of sign characteristics you've already read elsewhere. It's a tool developed for those who are exactly at this point, feeling that something has changed internally, that the old structure no longer accommodates what is being born, but without yet having clarity about what this new thing is. It works with the layer that lies beneath the surface of Libra, with that accumulated pressure I described, with the weight it carries without naming it, with the silent mechanism that has always protected it, and which is now asking for revision. You are in this moment right now, still processing, with this discomfort still active, and it is precisely now, while this process is still beginning, that this content makes the most sense. Not when you've already gone through everything and are on the other side. Now, while the pressure is still visible and the realignment can still be consciously monitored, the link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And before we continue, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt a moment when something inside you was clearly transforming, but you couldn't explain it to anyone around you? What was that experience like? Libra possesses an ability that seems like a gift, but it comes at a cost. She rarely calculates. She senses people. Not in the vague way everyone else does. She senses with surgical precision. She enters a room and in less than 30 seconds already knows who is angry, who is pretending to be okay, who is on the verge of something. She picks up on emotional frequencies that go completely unnoticed by most. And that's where the problem lies. Because Libra doesn't just capture, it absorbs. Imagine a sponge placed underwater for too long. It absorbs everything it touches. You don't choose what goes in, it just absorbs, because that's its nature. And Libra does this with emotions, with other people's tensions, with fears, insecurities and conflicts that aren't hers, but that she carries with such care that after a while she starts to confuse them with her own. Someone around you is going through something difficult, and you feel the weight of it as if it were your own. There's a conflict in a place you frequent, and even if it's not about you, you leave exhausted. You have a heavy conversation, and days later you're still processing it, still feeling the after effects of something that's technically over. This is not weakness. It is precisely Libra's hypersensitivity functioning unfiltered. It absorbs because it perceives, and it perceives because it feels, with a depth that most people don't have access to. But there's something that's never said about it. Part of what Libra calls her feelings isn't hers. It's the accumulation of everything she absorbed and never gave back, of everything that came in and stayed, of all the tension she held onto for other people because holding on seemed kinder than letting go. And this accumulation has weight, it has volume, it occupies internal space, and it's demanding to be heard now. There's a mechanism within Libra that operates silently. It works so well, so quickly, that Libra rarely notices it in action. Compulsive harmonization, probably the most defining pattern of Libra's psychology. It works like this. Whenever Libra detects conflict, any sign of tension, disagreement, imbalance, something inside her automatically triggers. She softens, she adjusts, she rephrases what she was going to say in a way that minimizes friction. She yields on important points. She smiles when she's not smiling inside. She reorganizes the environment, the conversation, the dynamics, all in fractions of a second before she's even consciously thought about it. Imagine a thermostat programmed to never let the temperature rise above a certain point. No matter what happens, the thermostat kicks in. It regulates, it compensates, it keeps the temperature controlled within an acceptable range. This thermostat saved Libra many times. She navigated situations that would have destroyed relationships because she knew how to regulate them before the temperature rose too high. She maintained important connections because she was skillful enough to prevent conflict from escalating. But there's a blind spot in this mechanism. When the thermostat regulates everything, the body never feels the heat it should feel. And some heat is necessary. There are temperatures that need to rise for something to be said, for a limit to be established, for Libra to occupy its rightful space with the intensity the situation demands. The thermostat kicks in first, and the opportunity passes. And here's the knot that's tightening now. The mechanism that has always protected Libra is becoming the biggest obstacle to what it needs to do at this moment. Because the cosmos isn't asking for harmony this time, it's asking for honesty. There were moments in Libra's life that she never fully understood. Moments when everything seemed to crumble at once, a relationship beyond saving, a certainty that turned to doubt, an identity that began to crack from within without warning. Libra navigated these phases with the only vocabulary she had available. This is my failing. I wasn't good enough. I didn't strike the right balance. If I had tried harder, perhaps I wouldn't have gotten here. But what if that were completely wrong? Think about what happens at a tectonic fault when the pressure is finally released. From the perspective of someone on the surface, it looks like destruction. The ground trembles, structures crack. Things that seemed solid reveal their fragility. It's terrifying, it's disorienting, it's the last thing anyone wants to experience. But what is actually happening is relief. The pressure that has built up over decades is finally finding an outlet. The tremor is not the problem, it is the solution. Without it, the tension would continue to build until a collapse far greater, far more devastating than any tremor could produce. The moments when Libra seemed to crumble weren't failures. They were realignments, the cosmos forcing an adjustment it wouldn't have made voluntarily because the thermostat would have been regulated beforehand. The pain of those moments wasn't punishment, it was the pressure releasing. It was the old structure giving way to something that needed to emerge. What if the biggest upheavals in your life were actually the moments when you were most free? This question carries weight, I know. And that's exactly what the digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, delves into in depth. This specific Libra pattern of interpreting realignments as failures, of carrying guilt for transformations that were necessary and inevitable. This book won't tell you that everything was all right. It will help you see what's happening underneath, to recognize the difference between a collapse and liberation. And Libra desperately needs this distinction right now. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's one thing Libra rarely admits, not even to herself, that she is powerful, not in the way the world easily recognizes, not with the kind of strength that fills space with noise and pronouncements, but in a way that is, if you stop to think about it, much rarer and much harder to cultivate. Libra perceives dynamics that others don't see. They enter a conversation and already know what's not being said. They observe a situation and identify the exact point where the balance is fragile before anything breaks. They have a capacity for reading people that takes other people years of inner work to develop, and Libra brings this naturally as part of the structure they were born with. But there's something she does with this power that's almost tragic. She miniaturizes it. Think of a hydroelectric power plant. A structure capable of generating enough energy to light an entire city. Now imagine that this plant, for some reason, decided to use all that capacity to light a single candle in a corner. The candle is lit, the plant is working, but 99% of the capacity is being contained, stored, not used, not due to incapacity, but due to a decision that was made so early that it became a habit. Libra does this to herself. She learned, probably early on, that taking up too much space creates conflict, that showing all her perception can be intimidating, that being completely honestly powerful raises questions, generates reactions, disturbs the harmony she so cherishes. And so she started regulating, adjusting, presenting the calibrated version of herself, the one that fits, the one that doesn't frighten, the one that doesn't provoke. And she became so good at it that today she no longer knows exactly where the manipulation ends and where the real person begins. That boundary was erased with such care that it is no longer visible. The cosmos does not operate by accident. The patterns that appear in Libra's cycles are not random. They repeat themselves with their own logic, spiraling back, never to the exact same point, but always revolving around the same themes that have not yet found resolution. And the theme that's resurfacing now is the most uncomfortable of all for Libra, herself, not others, not the environment, not relationships, herself. What she wants when she stops filtering by what others will think. What she feels when she stops processing through the lens of harmony. What she does when the thermostat is off. The cosmos is forcing a tide, and the high tide reveals what was hidden beneath the water. Are you familiar with this phenomenon? When the tide rises, what was submerged appears. Not because something new has arrived, but because the water level has changed, and what was always there has become visible. The seabed hasn't changed. The tide is what altered the angle. What's happening with Libra now is exactly that. The cosmos is shifting the angle, revealing parts of you that have been submerged for too long. Not because they were bad, not because they were a problem, but because the environment around Libra rarely created conditions for them to safely emerge. Now it will appear, not because you chose it, because the cycle has arrived. And here, at this specific moment when the tide is rising, is where the digital book, the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose, offers something few other resources provide: a language to name what is being revealed. Because when the tide rises, the hardest part isn't what appears. It's not having words for what you're seeing. This book works with Libra's cycles of self-revelation from a deeply personal and practical angle, helping you navigate what is emerging without retreating back to the familiar surface. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a question no one has asked Libra yet, and that I need to ask now. Who are you when you stop trying to be accepted? This isn't a rhetorical question, it's a real question, with a real answer, one that Libra has rarely had the space to explore. Because from a very young age, Libra learned that acceptance has conditions. That being well received depends on how you present yourself, and so, little by little, she molded her presentation until the presentation became the person. But there's a Libra on the other side of that, a version that didn't go through the acceptance filter before appearing, that didn't check if it would be well received before speaking, that didn't calculate the impact before feeling it. Think of a diamond. Not the polished diamond in a display case, its cuts calculated to reflect light in a specific way. The rough diamond, right after extreme pressure, has shaped it. It hasn't been polished yet, it hasn't been presented yet, but it's real, it's tough, it's impossible to ignore. The pressure that Libra went through, the tremors, the realignments, the moments that seemed like collapse, didn't break it. They transformed it. From what yields, what absorbs, what regulates, into something with a completely different structure. Something that can no longer be what it was before, not because it lost something, but because it gained a density that didn't exist before. And the identity that emerges on the other side of such a realignment is not a reconstruction of what was before. It is a revelation of what has always existed underneath. Only now, without the pressure of having to be something different in order to survive. Who is this Libra, the one who survived the tremor, carried the weight, crossed the tide? This question will stay with you for a while, and it's good that it does. The digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, was created to accompany you precisely through this process, not the moment of crisis, but the moment afterward. When the dust settles and you need a map to understand the new terrain you're on. It works with the identity of Libra beyond harmonization, beyond diplomacy, beyond everything it has learned to be in order to be accepted. With what remains when all that is set aside and only the essential remains. If you are at this point now, this is the right time. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There is a moment after every great storm when the silence has a different quality. It's not the tense silence of before, the silence that precedes, that accumulates, that holds pressure. It's another kind of silence, cleaner, wider, the kind that only exists when something that needed to happen finally happened. Libra is arriving in this silence now. What Libra went through, and what it's still going through, was no small feat. It wasn't a fine-tuning adjustment. It was the kind of movement most signs don't experience with this intensity, because Libra carries more, absorbed more, regulated more. And when someone carries so much for so long, the realignment is proportional to the weight. It's fair, it's cosmically accurate. But here's what I want you to take away from this video. What's happening to Libra now isn't punishment. It never was. There's no force in the cosmos punishing Libra for being who it is. What exists is a calling, an invitation for the inner structure to finally correspond to the perception it has always had, but never fully ceased to manifest. Libra always knew there was something different about her. That feeling of noticing what others don't, of feeling what no one around is feeling, of possessing an emotional intelligence that seems bottomless. This is not an exaggeration. It's not oversensitivity. It's Libra's true nature, the one that exists beneath the diplomatic surface, beneath the harmonious smile, beneath everything she has learned to be. The cosmos is pointing to this now. It's saying enough hiding, enough holding back, enough being a smaller version of yourself for fear that your true size will scare those around you. The sun that emerges after a long storm is not a different sun. It's the same sun as always, but the person looking at it has changed, and the light, seen by eyes that have weathered the tremor, has a quality that was previously invisible. Libra is arriving in that light, and that light, I needed to tell you, has always been yours.